You forgot we're supposed to rebuke evil.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes.
So if you could...
The evil of a woman asking to help feed her baby. A can of baby formula costs less than $10, dude. You trying to tell me you have on that fancy suit? Your church don't got $10?
Pretend to have a crying baby to try to call churches and to trick people into things. Now, let me tell you something about
It's not a trick. It's a test. You were tested by God and you failed. Woman asks pro-life churches to feed her starving baby. Their responses were predictable. Video by The Humanist Report. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Is there any way y'all could help with formula?
We do have a benevolence ministry. I can take down your information and put in a request for you.
Okay. How long would that take?
We really don't have an estimated time.
She even got the baby crying in the background. I imagine that's like a recording she's playing, but the person listening, they think it's a real baby crying, right? So she's crying, her baby is starving. She's just asking for formula. Oh, we got to put you on the wait list. In case you haven't realized, she's on the phone with Lakewood Church, which is a multi-million-dollar mega church, okay? These people, they found money in the walls in these churches. That's not an exaggeration, or like that literally happened. And so they got bread. They got too much bread and they're not getting taxed. Can you spare a can of baby formula? Let's see what they say.
Because we do receive a lot of requests here. Each applicant is different. You could take a couple days. You could take a couple weeks.
Couple weeks? Oh, yeah. No, don't worry about it. My baby, they'll make it a couple more weeks without any food.
Don't have a time frame there.
Okay, you said it would take a couple of days to weeks?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if approved.
If approved. If approved. Imagine Joel Osteen talking to Jesus and saying, hey, do you think this is, you think we should approve this one? She's got a starving baby.
You just watched a TikTok from Nikolai Monroe, who called Lakewood Church, whose pastor is none other than Joel Osteen, worth an estimated $50 million. But as you heard, they did not have baby formula readily available for a mother in immediate need. It would take days, possibly weeks, to get it to her, assuming she applied and got approved. Now, Nikolai isn't actually a mother in need. Rather, she was conducting what she called a social experiment to see which churches would actually help a member of their community. Now, seeing as how all of these churches likely describe themselves as pro-life, you'd think that providing baby formula to families in need would be a no-brainer, but that's not actually the case.
Right.
Because she called 43 churches, and do you want to know the number who actually agreed to help her? Take a guess. 10. Just 10. Less than 25%. And Twitter user...
Wow.
Smalls2672 put together this spreadsheet of the first 40 churches that she called, and it's easy to see how just like looking at this without going through it statistically, you are not likely to receive help from a church, although you could get lucky if you call the right one. And the tab reports that the reasons for the rejections to her...
You know, if you remember that debate between ABBA and Stevie Knight, when he was trying to make the argument as to why it's so evil and criminal for hungry children to be fed at their schools, he was saying, well, there are places you can go, like the food pantry or a church. Turns out you have better luck just knocking on your neighbor's door and begging for $20.
Ranged from, we stopped doing that to just no. With most of them telling her to call a different place for help. And here's
we stopped doing that. Yeah. We crunched the numbers, and the whole helping struggling mothers with their starving babies, it just didn't fit in the budget.
Taste of some of the responses that she got after calling various churches across the country, including Charlie Kirk's church.
Yes, I just want to see if there's any way y'all could help with a small can of baby formula. I've been out since
listen, she got on that nice southern accent. You can hear the whiteness, the white southern cowboy hats and boots, and you can just hear it coming through the phone.
Last night, and my daughter, she's not 8 since last night, and she's only 2 months old, and I've been calling everywhere, and they're just telling me to keep calling churches.
Let's see. The super pro-life Charlie Kirk. Let's see what his church says.
Okay. So we have you ever heard of Mom's Pantry?
Yes, I already tried them. They don't have any formula.
Okay. That's our only connection to, like, our food bank ministry. So
Nice.
if they don't have any baby formula, then
Hey, how about you take a little bit of that money out of the collection plate? Right? You should just drop everything. That's what the Good Samaritan did, right? The Good Samaritan, he just dropped what he was doing and helped that Jew. And you know what I'm saying? Why don't you do that?
don't have any in our office that we could provide.
So she's been going all night and all day without anything to eat. I was just trying to see if somebody could help.
Okay, hold on just a moment.
All right.
Right.
So she legit sent me to a voice recording that you can't even leave a voicemail to just to get me off the fucking phone.
I don't have any. Have you checked with, like, Crossfire Ministries?
Yeah, I have.
Do you attend one of our campuses?
I don't attend, no. I'm just in local.
See, here's the thing. This is the kind of, when I was growing up, going to church back in Jamaica, of course, all the churches are black. Growing up, if a person called our church in the middle of the week saying, hey, I have a starving baby, and they're crying, it don't matter if there isn't no food pantry or we don't got baby. They would just say, okay, come on down and we'll sort you out. We'll figure something out. And then when you get there, they're going to try and ask you, hey, you know, what are you doing for work? What's your living situation? And maybe find someone in the congregation that could give you a job. What do these people do? Send you the fucking voicemail. Tell you, sorry, better luck next time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, did you try Mercy's Gate?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any way to help you with that. I'm so sorry.
Are you a pro-life church at all?
Yeah.
So I'm curious why you would be a pro-life church and you wouldn't help feed a starving baby that hasn't ate all night.
Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that.
How do you set up a church and don't have a food bank? I don't know. Me growing up, I always thought that if you can't go nowhere else to get help, you can always go to a church. Turns out that ain't the case. That ain't the case at all.
Have you tried St. Paul's?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. If you stop by around 1 p.m., then we can have that ready for you.
Finally.
We can do this. I'll just see. Tell me what it is you called in case I have to go get it because I'm a great grandfather.
See, that's a good Christian, man. I'm not a Christian. I don't subscribe to the religion, but I recognize when people are actually practicing what they preach. That's what a real Christian is supposed to say, man. Yeah, we don't have any here, but we'll figure it out. You just come on down.
No, you speak up phone, okay?
So, as you saw, some were willing to help, most not so much. And the elderly great-grandfather that she talked to reportedly received $75,000 in donations to his church's food pantry after his TikTok with her went viral.
Go.
And that brought him to tears. And it's just nice to see somebody get rewarded for being a good person. But what I find so crazy is that it was the smaller, predominantly black churches, as well as a Buddhist temple and an Islamic center, who were willing to help, whereas the wealthier mega churches like Lakewood and Charlie Kirk's church, they were not willing to help, despite being much more wealthy than those smaller churches who did agree to help her.
Yeah.
And one thing that struck me after listening to a number of these calls is how taken aback so many of them were by her request. Even the ones who agreed to help, like the great-grandfather that she talked to, they didn't have baby formula at their church. He said he would go buy it for her and give it to her because he loves babies. He's a great-grandfather, which tells me that so many churches don't have this readily available. They don't have baby formula or food or a program in place to distribute mutual aid to their communities, which is kind of crazy because, like, that's what churches are supposed to do, or so I thought, but they're not doing that. But the one call that stood out is when she was recommended to call a mosque or an Islamic center after she made calls to churches, this just to see, what they would say.
What?
And they agreed to help her, no questions asked. Take a listen.
Of course.
I have a 2-month-old baby and I ran out of formula last night and I was wanting to see if there's any way you all could help with a can of baby formula.
We can, ma'am. Where do you live? Do you live in Charlotte?
Yes, I'm like 10 minutes from you all.
Okay. And what kind of formula you need?
He asking,
It's,
what
good-
kind of formula you need? Hey, man.
Good start.
But these are people we want to run, MAGA want to run out the country. These are the people MAGA wants to run out the country. Here you got this southern white woman calling. They can hear it over the phone. They instantly thinking, shit, well, you know, based on your demographics, you probably don't even like my kind. But, hey, I'm a man of God. I'm a man of God. And you gonna tell me that if there is this guy sitting up in the sky judging people, he gonna send him to hell? But he's gonna send a Christian person to heaven because they believe in Jesus? Bro, get out of my face with that shit.
Good start. Yeah, that's fine, man. If you come over here, we'll help you.
So, as you can see, they agreed to help her, no questions asked. Just let me know where you are, we'll come meet you.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, isn't it? You would expect that from the so-called pro-life fundamentalist evangelicals, but they're not doing that.
And I don't know if you know this, but in Islam, they don't have this very hardline pro-life position. In Islam, there is a period in between conception and a point at which, in their tradition, in their beliefs, they say that is the point when the soul actually enters the body.
And yet Muslims are demonized in this country every single day when they're helping members of their community. Now, that's just like one example. Nonetheless, it's crazy that that call stood out compared to the rest of them, where they were like, well, have you tried this or that, or tried calling this person or that person? And they hemmed and hawed. I mean, this is what churches are supposed to do. Now, in the event they were willing to help her, the 10 churches that said, yes, we'll give you baby formula, or I'll go buy baby formula personally for you, she told them that she didn't actually need the help and was just calling as part of a social experiment, sometimes at the request of a member of their congregation. And it was like pulling teeth to even get an answer out of some of these people, because like, they didn't want to tell her no explicitly, but they would hope that she would take the hint after they were like, have you tried contacting this office or this local elected official? And she was like, yep, tried that, until they were just like, we can't do it.
Yeah.
But to make matters worse, some of the churches who rejected her had the audacity to lash out and attack her after realizing that they were part of her viral social experiment.
Oh, yeah.
One of them called her a witch, case in point.
Folk want to apologize. I don't apologize to the devil. Yeah, sometimes Christians.
Oh, but even here, we got a black church that was pulling this bullshit too. So, hey, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't agree with this shit either. But at least we can see it's usually better.
You're so weak.
But what a shame, man. Shame on this man.
You forgot we're supposed to rebuke evil.
Oh, right. Yes.
So if you could.
The evil of a woman asking to help feed her baby. A can of baby formula costs less than $10, dude. You trying to tell me you have on that fancy suit? Your church don't got $10?
Pretend to have a crying baby to try to call churches and to trick people into things. Now, let me tell you something about that.
Not a trick. It's a test. You were tested by God and you failed.
We fed thousands of people. And I said, we in the middle of feeding people. How you gonna do your little dirty deed? And you know, it's just the spirit of a witch.
That don't matter. It don't matter that you fed thousands of people, because that was planned. That was for sure, for show. It is not actually impressive. You think it impresses God when you give, when it's easy? Huh? You think it impresses God when you give when it's easy? No, he will be satisfied and impressed according to the character of God that most Christians believe in, when you give, when you don't see that you have abundance to give. That is true charity. That is true generosity. That is truly living in abundance, knowing that God will provide in the end, even if you give what it doesn't appear like, when you don't look like you got a lot.
It's a witch.
In other words, we don't do shit for our community, and instead of trying to do better, and instead of trying to learn from that embarrassment, we're going to attack the woman that exposed us as the frauds that we are with the most reasonable request ever. And he ended up making his church look worse because local news picked up his comments calling her a witch. And now everyone in the community knows that he is a cold-hearted asshole. And I just want to show you her call to that church so you can see her supposed witch behavior for yourself.
Right.
Hey, I was wanting to see if y'all could help with a small can of baby formula. I have a 2-month-old and she's been out since last night, so she's gone all night and all day without anything to eat.
We don't have any formula around, darling. I'm sorry. None. No diapers, anything for babies. We don't have anything.
Could that be something you all could get and I could just pick it up?
No, we can't right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. All right, thanks.
How dare she?
What a witch! A demon straight out of the pits of hell.
Imagine being offended by that. She tested that church, and even though it was open book and open note, they failed spectacularly, and they decided to attack her and claim that she was the bad person, even though they very clearly aren't willing to help somebody in their own fucking community.
Yeah.
But they're not alone because she made a similar call to a different church, and they also decided to attack her for failing her very simple test.
If somebody walked in the back door right now,
Look at him in his fucking expensive suit. Let's hear you tear this woman down for asking for help with her baby. Go ahead, Pastor man.
for a can of baby formula, how many of you would help? Just show by a raise of hands.
I don't see everyone's hands.
There's your social experiment.
Where's the hands?
GBC is.
He said, there's your social experiment.
Right.
That's who GBC is.
Leaving Germantown Baptist Church, talked 20 minutes to the congregation, filling them in on what has transpired over the last few days. He said you probably should have addressed the issue earlier than emailing everybody last night. He talked about how benevolent they are and what the term benevolent means. He talked about how much they have donated to the community. 800 pounds of food, I think, is what he mentioned just in the last couple of weeks. One thing he said is that woman is folly. I have to look it up. It's Proverbs. Woman is folly, seductive, and knowing nothing. He did manage to get in woke liberal. Woke. I don't know if he said liberal, but he definitely mentioned woke.
Yes. Yes, it's so woke, helping the poor and less fortunate. What a woke thing.
It seems to me that there are a lot of empty seats in that church. It's a big church.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of empty seats. There's a lot of empty parking spaces. It kind of says something about the church, don't you think?
Please let me remind you that this place has a spa. It has childcare. It has children's choirs. It has all different types of things that they claim for children from birth until 5th grade. You just have to go there. But their Google hours are closed on Saturday and Sunday. That's odd for a church.
Right.
They're not open on Sundays. They have business hours Monday through Friday. So they deserve business taxes.
And that I agree with, because one of the main arguments for tax-exempt status of churches is that they give back to their communities in theory, therefore they shouldn't have to pay taxes. That's not the underlying legal justification, by the way, but it's a common argument used in favor of churches keeping their tax-exempt status. But I mean, if churches aren't doing shit for their communities, not to mention pushing overtly political sermons, I mean, they absolutely should lose their tax-exempt status. That's only fair.
Right.
Any prosperity preachers or hate-filled pastors, they shouldn't get to subsist off of the teat of the taxpayer. Because if they're going to be a net negative to their community, they shouldn't be rewarded for that by not having to pay taxes like the rest of us. And in many instances, some of these churches are downright predatory because they pressure their members to give money that they can't afford with the false promise of a blessing in return. Now, this is anecdotal, but at my family's church when I was younger, they pressured members to tithe 10% of their income, which is pretty standard. And my family was doing that all the way up until my dad lost his business after he got disabled. And I remember my parents talking about how they couldn't afford to give their 10% and they felt really bad about that, but they were pressured to do so anyway because, you know, of the blessings that they would potentially receive in return. If they trusted God, their blessings would be tenfold. Not to mention,
it's funny how the church doesn't trust God. The church trusts you that you're going to show up to work on Monday. Yeah, and show up on time and work hard Monday through Saturday or Friday. Yeah, that's what they trust in. But you just got to trust God.
members made them feel like shit for not tithing the full 10%. So against their better judgment, they did tithe 10%, even though they very much couldn't afford it. And even though the church never invested that money back into my family. My sister, for example, was a single mother, and she never got help despite asking, aside from a couple of members giving her $20 from time to time.
Right.
And ironically, my family had to rely on other churches during their toughest times instead of their actual fucking church that they attended every single Sunday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
There was this 7-day Adventist
They probably
church
gave thousands of dollars to that church over the course of their membership.
in Portland that had a clothing bank, and we would go there when I was younger because they would help us out, no questions asked, even though we never attended a single service. Meanwhile, the Baptist church that we went to told us to go fuck ourselves in times of need. And I don't think that my experience is that unique. There's a lot of Zoomers and millennials my age, especially gay and trans ones, that still have lingering trauma from our days as fundamentalist Christians, which is part of the reason why I think religiosity in general is declining in the United States, specifically Christianity, although it has notably leveled off, according to Pew Research. And it's currently more of a generational divide, with only a plurality of 18 to 24-year-olds identifying as Christians, compared to the overwhelming majority of Americans 74 and older identifying as Christians. Meanwhile, we've seen growth in non-Christian religions, including Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism, presumably because Christianity has obviously been hijacked by far-right political extremists who are selfish, judgmental, and want to impose their religion on everyone else in society to the detriment of other religious people and non-believers, which is expectedly fueling the backlash that they're experiencing right now. They'll tell you that women who get abortions are murderers. They'll treat LGBTQ people as degenerates because they're in violation of biblical laws that in the same section tell you it's also a sin to eat shellfish or wear clothing of mixed linen, by the way. But I mean, they cherry pick the ones that get you to hate your neighbor specifically. And the modern fundamentalist evangelical movement literally became politicized in response to the end of segregation, not abortion, contrary to popular belief. That supplanted the issue of integration later after they realized it was a losing battle. But at the end of the day, I think that the decline in Christianity that we're seeing is a direct result of its association with the fascist Republican Party. Good people who actually want to follow Jesus' socialist message, they don't want to be associated with that toxic brand of Christianity that's so dominant in American politics. Yeah. And when you take into account the hypocrisy and selfishness,
so many Christians are going to deconstruct, all thanks to Christian nationalism.
Of so-called pro-life churches who can't even be bothered to give formula to starving babies, I mean, Christians really have nobody to blame but themselves for their ongoing PR crisis. But again, I don't begrudge anyone who finds comfort or peace in religion and spirituality because life is hard, and if it gives you comfort, that's okay. But I would argue that this life becomes so much more valuable after you accept that it's only temporary. But with that being said, you know, if you oppose bigotry...
Yeah, man, so that's... not surprising, what we just observed, what we just saw. I could have predicted that if you asked me. Okay, I'm gonna call 40 churches. How many of them you think are actually gonna help? Yeah, I feel like 1 in 4 is pretty solid. But come on, let's not forget, most of these churches, they're Zionists. They're pro and they're actively bombing babies in Palestine. They support that. So yeah, but. You go ahead and let me know what you think about this story in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.